Hello and welcome back to the Ninox Learning Channel. In our last class, we learned how to create an Excel spreadsheet out of Ninox data at the click of a button. We called this a simple export because the Excel spreadsheet that we created consisted of a single page or tab, and the content came from a single table in Ninox. In this class, we're going to learn how to do a compound export, where we're going to create a single spreadsheet or worksheet with multiple pages, and we're going to source the content of that spreadsheet from a variety of tables all within a single Ninox application. Let's see this in action, and then we'll go behind the scenes and see how we make it happen. As before, we're going to use our general ledger accounting system, but this time, instead of simply exporting my chart of accounts, I want to do a compound or a multi-page export. I would like to have my balance sheet on one page and my income statement on a separate page. And then I'd like a third page of all of my summary metrics for my business. Return on investment, days in receivables, the age of my payables, cash flow analysis, things like that. So what I need is a single worksheet or a packet that consists of 3 pages where the data is coming from 2 different tables, and one of those tables is being used twice, but with different search parameters to create the different financial statements. I'm going to click the Export to Excel button. We see here that our financial statements packet is created. I can click the button, and there's my packet. 3 pages in one spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is called Financial Statements. The 3 pages are my statement of profit and loss, and you'll notice that the column heading in column A is P&L account. The second page is my balance sheet, and the column heading in column A is balance sheet, and the third page is the summary metrics. I have a different column heading and a different layout to this particular page. 3 different pages, 3 different reports, all in one worksheet, or what we like to call a packet. Let's see how it's done. I'm going to go into administrative mode, select my Export to Excel button, and let's look at the code. Now, the process of creating this compound worksheet is exactly the same as the process we used to create the simple worksheet in our previous class. The only difference is we're going to repeat steps 1 and 2, the definition of columns and the definition of rows, multiple times, 1 time for each page in our worksheet or our packet. So here we see columns 1, a new column set, and it consists of 2 columns. Column 1 is the P&L account column. Column 2 is the balance column. Those columns are 28 characters and 14 characters wide respectively, and use the X account and X bal hooks to connect our header to our data. We then have a second definition of columns, columns 2, and this is our balance sheet financial statement. Again, 2 columns, the account and the account balance. And then a third column set called columns 3. Again, 2 columns, the metric and the metric value. Different column widths, different column headings. Now, since we have 3 sets of columns to correspond to the 3 pages in our packet, we need 3 different sets of rows. Row 1 is going to be those accounts in the chart of accounts in order of account number, specifically where the account is a income statement account. It's on the income statement financial statement. Page 2 is going to be the same table, the chart of accounts in the same order by account number, but this time we're going to use a different filter. We're going to filter so we only get balance sheet accounts. And then finally, row set 3 uses an entirely different table, where rows 1 came from the chart of accounts and rows 2 came from the chart of accounts. Rows 3 comes from the summary table. So we have 3 sets of columns, columns 1, 2, and 3, and 3 sets of rows, 1, 2, and 3. We can use the same hook over and over again, as you see here. In column set 1, we use X account and X bow, identical to what we use in column set 2. But since we have 2 different definitions of rows, we can reuse the column keys or hooks to draw in different content. In this case, same table, different filter set, income statement and balance sheet. Our third set of rows, corresponding to the third set of columns, uses an entirely different table. Now we're still only going to have one worksheet. So again, we see the definition of the variable worksheets, but the worksheet now has 3 pages where previously it only had 1. Each page is contained in a set of braces, and each page is separated with a comma. Page 1 will be called Statement of Profit and Loss, and the columns and rows will be columns 1 and rows 1. The second page will be called Balance Sheet, and we'll have the column and rows 2, the second set, defined. And finally, the Summary Metrics page will not only be the third set of columns and rows, but the rows will come from an entirely different table than what we used previously in the first and the second row set. Everything else is the same. We use the createXLSX command with the same 3 parameters. Attach it to this record, specifically this image field. Create it according to the definition of worksheets, and we see that definition here on rows 46 through 58. One spreadsheet, 3 pages, each with its own set of columns and rows. And name this object that is to be created fin statements or financial statements .xlsx. Save this Excel object in this field called export file. And as we did in our previous class, before we do anything on row 1, get rid of the previous export on line 1 to make room for the new export here on line 60. Again, to see it in action, the first line will delete the old export, the next 58 lines will create the new export, and the last line of the code will save the new export into this image field. There goes the old one, there's the new one, and there's our single packet called financial statements with 1, 2, 3 pages, each with its own definition of columns. And in this case, page 1 has only our P&L or profit and loss accounts, revenue and expense, and our net income bottom line. Page 2, a different set of headings, a different set of accounts, assets, liabilities, and ownership equity. And page 3, an entirely different table with all of our summary metrics calculated for us. The simple spreadsheet that we created in our previous class was 1 page, 1 source of data. In our compound exports, we can create a single spreadsheet with an unlimited number of pages or tabs. We can name the packet spreadsheet or worksheet and each tab as we see fit, and we can individually define the content of each page. Now, this packet that we've created is still pretty raw in terms of how it looks. We don't have a lot of control over the formatting of the numbers, any differentiation between the font and size and display of our column headings versus the content that appears below that. Now that we know how to create this compound export, let's look at how we can format or control the visual appearance of the content that we're exporting into this single packet, and in this case, these 3 pages. Let's go on to class 129 when we're going to look at formatted Excel spreadsheet exports. I'll see you there. Visit us at www.nioxis.com. Here you can learn about different Ninox solutions. You can get tech support through our Ninox help desk, which is available 7 days a week, or you can schedule private one-on-one concierge sessions for training, or we can help you build your application. And if you haven't done so already, sign up for our free Ninox Learning Lab. We do this every Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. in the UK, 6 p.m. Central European Time. These free hour-long sessions enable you to learn more about Ninox, features, functions, and solutions. We have open Q&A where you can get answers to all your Ninox questions, and you can meet other members of the global Ninox community. We look forward to seeing you there.